All right, this is take two. I will admit that I started off previously. We got about a minute and a half into it, and I had an idea of where I wanted to go and start, and I just went immediately into the weeds.
Shit happens.
Yeah, it happens. So back here with Harrison Gottschling, his third, fourth time been on here.
I think third, maybe.
He and Steve were talking about this 40-mile cull herd hunt, and got me to come up. Now I'm here in his house. Took 1 day to get it done.
Yeah, with all the reports lately of where they are, where the herd is, and how spread out they are over such a large area, I was kind of worried that it was going to take at least a couple days to try and find something.
Yeah. You'd sent me a couple text messages, and I was looking at the Facebook page, and a lot of people were talking about this Zone 2 or something like that, and how you access that if it pushed off. And I thought, man, as soon as I bought my tickets, it seemed like that's when people were starting to not see him as much. So
Yeah, and I was really worried about that because the only area for Zone 2 access that I saw that was reliable is the Salter River, which isn't far to access from here, but they were saying it's like 40 to 60 miles up the river that you're all doing river riding and stuff, and overflow is reported, which there always is overflow on rivers in the middle of winter, and that's not something that I was comfortable taking you on, or even myself. I don't really want to do that.
yeah. Well, I'd never been on a snow machine before until I came up here. So that was a fun adventure. But
Yeah.
it was interesting, too, that there's a lot of information out there about this hunt. That people are very helpful and very forthcoming with information. It doesn't seem like the type of person who's going to post is the person who's like lying to you about stuff and saying, hey, go to this spot because they're actually somewhere else. So is that kind of indicative of a lot of hunts up here? Or is that just specific to this hunt because the herd has recovered to the point where they're looking to decrease numbers?
I really think that it's caribou as a species. I think a lot of people are really forthcoming with information because I think they're the number one like most populated big game animal in Alaska. And there's 36 herds in the state of Alaska for caribou, where the three biggest, I don't know what the third is, but I think the Nelchina, Porcupine, and the Fortymile Herd are the three biggest herds in the state of Alaska. And so, especially off the Steese Highway, it's been historical for years. Like you either go to Eagle Summit or 12 Mile Summit or anywhere in between. You just pick a creek and drive up or whatever you want, and they're going to be there. The Facebook post or the Facebook page for the 40-mile herd is really helpful because it's people are updating it every day that they go, and people are forthcoming with information, and it's not a secret.
Yeah.
So
it's nice that there's that idea that we're going to help people out. The whole point of this is for people to get food.
Yeah.
And it's a local not local, but resident registration hunt, and so maybe that's part of it. If there's a whole bunch of people from down south coming up, then maybe it wouldn't be as, but.
Oh, absolutely. And, there's also the idea that you can take either sex. So it's non-discriminatory, just meat is meat, and especially with caribou, a lot of times you can shoot either bull or cows, where that's not like any other animal. It's not like a special sheep spot where it's like a really coveted animal and you got to pay tens of thousands of dollars at times for a non-resident, or train for months and months. It's like, I need meat in the freezer. Like, cool. There's a great opportunity, especially with snow machines in the winter. That's awesome accessibility for the country.
Yeah. So we'll give a brief little recap here. So went up day one. About 15 or so miles on the first little out, and then you were breaking trail at first, which was kind of interesting. So my first ever on the snow machine, I'm following you as you're heading up in a much lighter snow machine that I rode later in the day. But we had a couple passes that we had to go up and kind of break a trail first and find that right line to get up to this little saddle we had to get up. So when you are taking your snow machine out, like, what do you look for as far as like making sure you have safe passage if you're breaking a trail?
Access to trees to pull yourself out if you need to like winch yourself out. I mean, that's it really. Like if you're getting into what you think is going to be deep snow and you're in the middle of nowhere, especially if you have any kind of like a newer sled, you can't move them by yourself. It's just not happening. You need some kind of a mechanical advantage, so like a rope along or like a lot of new machines are outfitted with winches that come straight from the factory that just bolt onto the front or the back, and then they're just electric and, you know, bing, bing, boom. But for me, with that, I have a 1986 Tundra, and like you can just lift the front end up pretty easily. So I mean, if you do really get stuck, you can dig yourself out pretty easy.
So which one is better, or is it just a preference? The newer, heavier ones, more power, but then they get stuck easier or sink further?
Not necessarily, because the newer ones, especially people or like a buddy of mine just bought a super wide track. So the tracks on those ones are only 24 inches wide versus the super wide tracks are like 36 inches wide. Oh, so the amount of surface area that you have as you're driving out is insane. And so you can go places and it's 5 or 6 times heavier than that little thing.
So we were hour or so maybe into our adventure. You hit a tree.
I think it was maybe 10 minutes in, honestly.
Well, it was on the first pass, right? So we weren't.
Yeah, I was just kind of cruising around, and the snow was a lot deeper than I was expecting. And so as I was kind of floating on the powder, you know, it's one of those like target fixations where I find it especially true with like dirt bikes too. Like if you're driving towards something, you're like, don't hit that rock, don't hit that big ass rock, and you try and shift your body weight, and it's too late, and you're going on it, and you just hit it, and that's same thing would happen and shatter the windshield first pass. So what are you gonna do?
So we get to the top, look around, and then we go down a little saddle up to another one, and I was really expecting just to see. Because of the reports, I wasn't expecting to see like a huge landscape just filled with them. I just figured I'd see this line of moving animals, a couple dozen, maybe 100, something like that. But just saw nothing, and just glassing, and it's just this. Everything is either black or white. You have these black rocks, and then you have the black trees, and then everything else is just white and glass for a little while. Nothing. My feet were cold. Everything else was warm, which was nice. But yeah, were you after that first spot in winter? Were you expecting that, or were you hoping, or were you sure like that spot was going to happen?
Well, I wasn't expecting necessarily to see much. I was just hoping for onesie twosie, little caribou here and there type thing. Maybe there's a little pocket of 10 or whatever. And if we stumble on a big one, then that's really cool to see, just for the sheer fact of seeing a bunch. We went a little farther than I had been last time I went in January with some friends, and that little saddle where we were is the same area where we saw a few hundred. And so, you know, I wasn't too worried that if there wasn't going to be anything, because there's a lot of territory out there. So
yeah. Second spot we went to did a lot more climbing. There was old roads, and there was some old mining stuff in there, which is kind of interesting. We're in this kind of a canyon that kind of narrowed as we got toward the back of it. We saw a bunch of ptarmigan, which was pretty sweet. How often do you go ptarmigan hunting, or do you just like take a pistol or a rifle or a shotgun just in case you see them?
Never really. I did a couple years ago whenever I was hunting caribou on the Denali Highway. I brought a shotgun just in case. And luckily for me, the only time that I ever did that purposefully, we saw several hundred ptarmigan. It almost looked like patches of snow on the hillsides.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'd never seen them like that before. It's probably half dozen or so. It just looked like little snowballs.
Yeah,
because they weren't moving and just perfectly incognito. It was pretty sweet.
The only reason I saw him is because I jumped him. You know, I don't think I would have picked him out.
There were a couple times you got a little bit ahead of me, a couple turns ahead of me. Were you concerned that at any point were if I had gone off or if I had wrecked or anything?
The only time was that first time that I was breaking trail in the deep snow in the timbered area, and that was the only time where I was like, God, I hope he stays on the fucking track that I did. I really don't want to have to fucking dig that thing out.
I got off once a little bit, and I managed to. I don't know, it wasn't so bad. Just like the back had swung off a little bit, so I had enough, and the skis happened to be skis in the front. Happened to be pointed in the right direction, and I was able to get back on there. But
yeah, it's a little different because my ski base our tracks are the same width on both those machines, but the skis on yours are like up to 8 to 10 inches wider. So where I'm going, you know, your skis are either in one of my ski lanes or something, but you're essentially breaking a little bit of a trail with one of the skis. So
yeah, I felt that a little bit, but it was kind of nice to get that out of the way. It was kind of challenging, and it was just, hey, this is what we're doing. Early in the day, you have all the energy, all the excitement. I just wanted to see him and get a good shot. I've been practicing. I was stoked. So being 0 for 2 was kind of, I don't know if I felt down. I was like, we got a couple of days. It's going to be fine. And it was still fun. Like, I was just loving, I was just kind of laughing, you know, just going around, just bombing around. It's fun because at this point I was totally warm. Like, feet were warm.
Peak of the day.
Again, I don't know if this was just the temperature change or if this was the costume change, but I had those refrigerator bibs, and I had my puffy jacket underneath the bibs on the first part, and the second one I put the refrigerator on the inside and then the puffy on the outside. It seemed like that was a little bit warmer, so between that and between the heat of the day, which was -6 or something, whatever it was, it's a lot easier to have fun when you're warm.
Oh, absolutely.
Hands warm, feet warm, everything warm. You're just enjoying the experience, and it was awesome.
You even complaining about you're like, how the hell do I turn these hand warmers off?
Oh, I was sweating. I thought, oh man, this is messed up. My hands were sweating, and I thought, well, what if we see a caribou and I'm taking my hands out and they're wet? Like, is it going to evaporate because it's so dry up here? Is it going to freeze? Or, you know, if it's not familiar to you, you sometimes have stupid questions, or you're just like, well, I don't really know. What is this?
Yeah.
Is this something I should be concerned about, or is this like a lower 48er coming up and asking ridiculous questions about what it's like up here? But, you know, in the back of my head, I thought, oh, what happened there? So, third part, herds. You talked to someone, and they said they saw some up by Eagle Summit.
Yeah, we were loading up, and some dude rolled down his window to talk to me, and we were just kind of BSing, you know, saying what we were looking at and how far we went, and saw what we saw or nothing. And he said, "Oh, I saw some up by the weather tower on another ridge over or something up on Eagle Summit." And so he's like, it was rocky, and I didn't know how to get over there, so we kind of gave up. And so it's like, well, we're going to get him. Just because you can't get there doesn't mean I can't get there. We're going.
That was hairy. It was different seeing because it was up at like the top, and so what looked like it was really rocky was just you could see the vegetation.
Yeah,
was exposed, and so it looked a lot rockier than it really was, but there was definitely some rocks there. And then it got. We're talking rolling hills here, which is, you know, they're rolling, but they're still pretty steep in a couple spots, and so we bombed out probably 3/4 of the way, and then we just had this one really steep dive to a saddle and then back up, and you were all ready for it, and I thought, I don't know, man. Like, I followed you because you had the confidence. I can do this. I'm feeling good after, 30 miles or whatever at this point. I was like, dude, I'm not so sure about that. So I'm glad
you're the voice of reason.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be the, over the top, because at some point you just got to go for it. Mm-hmm. But, I'm kind of conservative in nature, especially when I'm starting something new. And we tried to hook down and around it. It was just...
Yeah, it looked a lot more gradual from up high. And then once we kind of kept going down lower and lower and lower, not even that much lower. We just looked at it and we're like, well, this is way too steep. Like, this is be asinine and probably dangerous. It's like getting closer to the end of the afternoon and just not something to do in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, the side hill part was the part that really was kind of sketchy. Mm-hmm. We went up and down a couple steep spots that had some snow around, but then you can kind of use the brake. But you side hill some of that stuff, and it's tough to gauge the weight, and all it takes is a little bit to start going over.
One little rock.
I tipped a little bit, but yeah, that's no good. So we turned around and went out of there, and then at that point we decided that we were just going to call it because that was probably 3:30.
Right around 3:30.
Figured we'd come back the next day because we were 100 miles from Fairbanks, and on our way out between 12 Mile and Eagle, well, I guess Eagle and 12 Mile because we're heading back into town, saw 2 or 3 trucks, couple sleds, and 2 or 3 caribou.
Yeah.
So we drove past. We were going to. You wanted to turn around and talk to him, and in the process of turning around, well, why don't you tell us what happened there? What happened there?
Well, I want to blame the weight of my trailer that pushed me around and made me slide just a little bit downhill off the road. Just poked the front end of the truck and one of the tires into the deep snowbank. So luckily it was been freshly graded, and so it's all like hard pack, and the snow had set, so it wasn't like fresh powder. And because if it was fresh powder, that truck would have gone really fucking deep in there, and then we would have been hosed.
Yeah, it was one of those parts of the road where it's downhill and then it's angled so that vehicles,
it's like a big sweep.
Yeah, a nice sweep there. So you got the angle. So we went down. It was all against, and so now we're on this sweeping turn. So there was definitely you could see both ways, but we were out there.
I got the fucking trailer jackknifed
in the middle of the road there. Got it taken off the truck, and then we just slid it across uphill to the other side of the road. There was the pullout, which you used to turn around, and then got it across there, and then got the truck out, and then drove up to talk to those guys, or actually that guy, and he said, yeah, there were. Did you ask him about the Caribou and where they were, or did he ask for the coffee percolator first? Which one went first?
I think we just said like, oh, hey, nice Caribou. He said, oh, thanks. And then he asked, do you have a coffee percolator?
Yeah, so then you had just a little pot that he could boil water in. Mm-hmm. So then he divulged that there was about 400 Caribou. You said 3 hills and 3 miles? Something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah. So we decided to go after, gave him the pot to boil water so he could make coffee. We go back, got the snow machines off there, drove up, and on the way up, we're following their tracks. There was a party of, 4 or 5 of them or something like that.
Yeah, he was like, oh, yeah, there's a couple guys up the road. They're going to go back to shoot like 4 more or whatever it was.
So, heading up there, you see one. I see you stop. I don't see anything, and then you pointed, and I saw that there was one up at the top of this little crest. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? We didn't have our hand signals down. Like, do I stop because I want to spook it?
Yeah.
What do I do? And so I got up to next to you, and then you let me go around, and the guy just like vanished.
Yeah, I mean, he was skylined when we first saw him anyway, so
yeah,
it wasn't like he was, in a real comfortable shooting area anyway,
Yeah.
Especially with people beyond, like he was kind of where the snow machine tracks were. Mm-hmm. And so, especially skyline too, it's like you don't know if the guys are like right on the other side. You don't want to go crazy and start shooting skyline animals in the direction where other people are. Yeah, and we saw, as we were making that approach, we could see everything off to the right. And so we figured that he went off to the left, and so we got to the top and this little rocky outcropping, and then looked down and you saw some.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Yeah, I stood on top of a big rock outcropping and, was like, where the hell did he go? Then I looked to my left real quick, and I see like a flash of some heads and antlers about 70 yards from me spook off downhill into this little drainage.
When they do spook, like, how far do they run? Like, you hear about animals spooking just leaving. Like your mule deer, when people fail stalks with mule deer, it is gone out of country. Elk too, but do they just kind of...
From my experience, caribou just kind of go, 100 yards, maybe a couple hundred yards, and then just sit there and look at you. Then if they don't perceive an immediate threat, then they'll just hang out. If you're trying to like put the real stalk on them and you're belly crawling them and they can see you, then it's like that looks like a predator, really. Mm-hmm. So then they'll spook out. But honestly, what we did where we saw them and just kept poking our heads up and looking over a crest and seeing them, they just stayed, 300 yards?
Yeah. So is it different in like, if you're hunting in September because they can run further and faster and they might be less likely or less, snow, like it's going to take a lot of calories and it's cold, it's going to be tough for them to escape throughout. Are they lazier and more likely to stick around if it's winter, or do they kind of just, is that behavior pretty consistent throughout the year?
I haven't hunted many caribou in the fall. I've hunted more caribou in the winter. But I would imagine that it's probably a pretty consistent trait that they would have, that they probably wouldn't go far.
Yeah. So, belly crawl up there, shoot, got a little bit of wind, so kind of went neck and then into the jaw, which is not ideal. But out of down, it was awesome. Just I was hesitant at first because it was already 4 o'clock when we saw those guys and you wanted to go for it. I thought, man, again, this is the tentative conservative. This is the first time I've ever been on a hunt anything like this. My cold is 27 in the morning and then it warms up, or it's 38, 39 and rainy, but I'm a mile from my truck, or if I just keep walking I can get warm. So it's just a different program.
It's also a different kind of cold, coastal versus dry interior. Yeah.
And then the consequences are different too. Like with the snow machine, you get your snow machine stuck and you got to hike through snow back, and it was different. So you said I feel confident about it. All right, let's go. I think especially because you turned around at Eagle Summit. You're like, no, this is messed up. This is too much. I think that helped with the confidence too, because you weren't just like hard charger. Yeah, let's just go, 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 send it, send it, send it. I was like, oh, he does have a line, and we got to the line and we went back, and in this case he feels good about it. So I thought that was pretty good. I was confident going forward after that, and it was easy to find the tracks. Went up there. And
weren't worried I was leading you to your doom?
No. I was maybe concerned at Eagle Summit.
Yeah, for sure.
I hadn't seen that caribou up at the top that you'd seen.
Yeah, and I only saw one, and he was probably maybe 4 or 5 miles away.
Yeah. Not that I didn't trust you, but I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
So, it was great to get that one down. It felt awesome, and then just cool. Just the whole experience, especially in one day. Because all of it came together. It's hard to kind of really put into words just the whole everything.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a cool time of the year to go out and chase big critters. And especially for you on, not from here, or at least interior Alaska, that is, and to be able to go out in the wintertime and see these rolling hills that just seemingly go on endlessly.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And it's awesome out there. It's like desolate, brutal.
Yeah.
The wind can get to you, if you're going in the headwind like we were in the valley, then it's like sucks. But then if you're going with it at your back, then everything's fine. Everything's great.
We were talking about that on the drive, just the word awesome, right? Like we use awesome for everything. Oh, this is awesome burrito. Like this pen writes awesome. And then you have that open expanse of earth type awesome. Like you are in awe of what you're seeing, and that's what it was. And it was, and again, it made it so much better that it was so cold and yet I was warm. Just that, okay, I'm prepared for this. I didn't bring water, which was terrible.
Rookie mistake.
That's so weird. Like water, I usually water and food. Like you just can't make that. That was stupid. I had it in the container and I just left it in the house. Gosh, it's just, you just can't make those sort of errors. Like that's the thing that you look back at and like, oh man, and we didn't have any water, so we had to. So that was real bad. Also forgot my kill kit, so we only had one knife. But
that's okay. Yeah. We just gutted him, took him back to the truck,
Yeah. So, but yeah, just all time type hunt. Just because it was different, new, getting up here, spring break in the cold, snow machine. Just so many new things in one. Starting at zero as far as like hunting, knowing what to do, where to go. And it's just also different too. Spring blackberry, you look for those tidal flats, and then alpine for deer, you just go in the alpine and just glass. So just to be driving around on the snow machine until you come up on something was just different than. I haven't done a whole lot of road hunting. I've done some, but it's just so different, but awesome, great, and I know.
It is kind of like road hunting in the sense that you're just mobbing around on snow machines looking for something, but it's different in the fact that it's like you're getting thrashed around on a snow machine and you're bouncing around and you're paying attention, really moving it and working the snow machine as you're going through stuff, and then taking your time and approaches, and it's the same kind of thing with a lot of mountain hunting where it's like you round a corner and then all of a sudden like several square miles seemingly open up in front of you, so it's like, okay, stop. Instead of rushing straight into it, glass a little bit, go another little bit, glass more, that kind of thing. So,
what are some of the consistent things throughout, like, interior hunting? Like, is caribou hunting at all like sheep hunting? Are you able to, because you're looking at expansive spaces, are you better at picking up animals? Or is there anything that's similar, or is it totally different?
For me, what I think probably is the thing that is probably the best or most consistent between those two types of animals that live in similar style of landscapes is just the amount of time you spend behind glass. Just let your glass do the walking for you, or riding on a snow machine for you. You don't need to go up over that next hill if you can see everything. If you see where that hill is, it's like, okay, well, if I'm on that hill, how much more country is it going to open? Mm-hmm. It's like, if it's not much, it's like, okay, I'll just glass here and look around and see what I can see. I would imagine that hunting sheep in snow is probably pretty difficult, but
yeah,
for caribou, they're fairly easy to spot.
Yeah.
So just letting the glass do the walking for you.
Yeah, a lot of the southeast hunts, you go up, actually quite a few day hunts. You know where you're going to go. You get up the mountain. You do that, or overnight, or you get there the night before and hunt the next day, and then it's done. So the hunts that you go on, your 60-mile 7-day sheep hunt a couple years ago. I think that time thing is definitely something that would vary from southeast to the interior too. Just that you've been out on long, grueling hunts, whereas southeast, 2 days is kind of the max. We can either get it done quickly or move to a different spot, or not having sheep, not having caribou, things are a little bit different. But yeah, that's kind of an intimidating thing too. Just like, I know I can do it, but I haven't really done it before. Like, I think 3 nights is the longest hunt I've ever been on, just because it hasn't been required.
Well, I didn't just automatically go to a week-long, 12-day plan type of hunt. I did it in baby steps. So the first year that I actually had backpacked around looking for sheep was 2017, I think. And so I did we just kept hiking and getting into nastier country, not really estimating it was my first foray into backcountry hunting, where everything is on my back and the only way in and out of this place is hiking, and especially through creeks and heavy woods. It's like, nothing's going to come back here and get me. Mm-hmm. I don't have some kind of inReach or anything at the time.
Yeah.
So I got my butt spanked just doing it. And it was like a day and a half, or not day and a half, but it was like a 3-day, 1 day in, 1 day hanging out, 1 day coming back. Mm-hmm. And so, I ended up giving up on my partner who was with me at the time, who was a lot more of a well-rounded hiker. And so he was ready to keep going, and I was like, my legs are almost shot now, and it's going to take everything to get me back to the truck. And so I don't know for me, it's not going to do any good if I go another 10 miles in.
Yeah. You got to have that right combination of physical limitations, but also mental. Right? Being able to shut it down if you need to, because if you go further, that might be the end. You need to be able to get back to and making that choice and kind of knowing and listening to your body. The more you're in those situations, the more you can kind of gauge where you're at. I think it's big with cold too. We talked about cold, when we were in the truck and whatnot. And I've been really cold before, and we talked about sometimes you get pissed off because you're starting to feel like you're on the edge of hypothermic. You're starting to get hypothermic. It sucks. Well, how did I let this happen? Which again, because you've been there before, it's like, oh, I recognize this. This is not good. But we're in a position here. We don't have to panic. We don't have to freak out. It's just, all right. Well, we need to fix this. We need to address this so that we don't go down that road. But yeah, it's kind of nice to know that you're super fragile, but you're capable of doing these things.
Yeah. Well, especially for temperatures like what we experienced out there. If you're sweating too much or you're working too hard and you stop and glass for a little bit and you chill down to the bone really quick, and then all of a sudden your stuff starts saturating inside and then freezing, and it can ruin a hunt really quick and turn sideways really quick. I mean, if we were at the deepest part of any of our areas that we were on snow machines, and let's say both snow machines broke down, we had to walk 10 miles out with like no snowshoes. Yeah, it's going to be a really rough time.
Yeah. I was sweating pretty good as we were heading out, and it was one of those where we were 3 miles from the truck, but that was going to be the end, and so there wasn't we weren't. But I was sweating so much, and then when we got back into the truck, I had my refrigerator overalls or the bibs, and then my puffy pants underneath them. The outer shell had started to freeze. I was warm, but it's just weird to have ice on the inside of your bibs. It's just a weird feeling, like just how close it is. Right? We talked about the thin, how things can go south really easily, really quick. But in that case, it was just part of the processing and getting stuff and get back to the truck and warm up, and there you go.
Yeah, it was a good day.
It was a great day.
Nothing broke down. I shattered my windshield, but that's all right. But nothing mechanical broke down. We did great.
Yeah.
Had one hell of a day for, a 12-hour hunt, really. It
would have been tough to come back today. We wouldn't have been as tired because we didn't have those last 3 hours of processing getting back, but it was just a long drive.
100 plus miles one way.
Yeah, to get there. And then 60, 70 miles on the snow machines, and then 100 miles back. Like that's
makes for a long day no matter what. Yeah.
It's a long day, but it's a nice thing to be on the road system. We don't really have that in Southeast, so everything's done by boat or fly out. So that is kind of appealing to be on the road system, but it takes a while.
Yeah, the Steese is pretty cool in the sense that it's a well-known area. It's a well-known hunting area for caribou and everything. So it's just kind of you're probably going to run into other people no matter what day it is of the week, and yeah.
That is nice. There are times you don't want to see any of the hunters, but I think especially on this one where it's winter,
it's almost reassuring.
Yeah, that someone is going to be close, and those guys that told us where the caribou were, like they stuck around until we came back out.
Yeah.
Never met the guys. All we did was, you gave them the pots they could boil water for coffee, but they just stuck around, just make sure that, we got out, and that was pretty sweet. They did have a nice fifth wheel
with the generator that they were pulling out and starting. Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
That would be great. Yeah, that would have been nice. But yeah, it's great. It's just a fun experience to come up here and do that stuff. It's hard to travel around. Well, it's not hard, but if you're going to travel out of Southeast, it's a lot more tempting to go down south somewhere warm if you have that time off.
Yeah, you said Ketchikan was only an hour and a half from Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you can get down
like 3.5 hours from Fairbanks. So
yeah. So in 3.5 hours heading south, I can get to Tucson. Mama's house there. Like that's nice and warm. But it's doing new stuff. And you're a resident here, so might as well make the most of it.
Yeah.
With these tags, these registration ones, these friends that live in these areas they're more than happy to help you out. So it's great. I'm so happy that I took you guys up on the offer, even if you did think that I wasn't going to.
Yeah, as you were, you already bought your ticket and everything, and then like the next week there was a lot of reports. They're like, the herd's moved on. There's no more caribou on the Steese, and I started like, oh shit, here we go.
Here we go. Yeah. So you said you shot 6 caribou in your life?
Uh-huh.
And the biggest one was the first one?
Yeah, when I was 12 or so. Fortymile Herd too.
That thing is crazy. I have no real frame of reference when it comes to caribou. I think we talked about this last time you were on the podcast. That 4-point buck on both sides. Yeah, there's 8 points total. You have eye guards. Cool. That's kind of what you're looking for. I have no idea about points, about shovels, about kickers, about girth, about side. No frame of reference. They're all just so different.
And it also varies between the herds.
Oh, yeah?
That
makes sense.
They say that, I've heard that the porcupine herd, which is up north above the Arctic Circle, that generally their body sizes are smaller. And so the way that you can estimate like a trophy-sized antler is how big is it in relation to their body cavity. So if it's the same size as their body cavity or bigger, then like that's a real good trophy-sized animal. But really, I think that beauty is in the eye of the beholder for caribou, because there's so many different configurations. Where some of them are super goofy, some of them are real lame, some of them have crazy points and double shovels and crazy fronts and back kickers and all this stuff, and you could have all of it or none of it and be happy with it.
Yeah. The cool thing about the cow that I shot is that it's got all that character, and you don't have to have, it doesn't have to be an old animal to start developing that character. Again, I'll use blacktail as the example, like a spike, a forky, once they get older and they start to, grow and move out. Sometimes genetics, like it's just going to be a forky or a little forky. There's just so much going on there. It's really cool. And the cool is that the cows have antlers, and then shooting cows, you feel bad about it whatsoever. I was reading on just about the Fortymile Herd in general, and Tok Air Service has like great information that was researched from the Department of Fish and Game. In the 70s, the herd was down to like 7,000. In the mid-90s, it was up to about 20,000, 25,000. And then now it's up to 80,000. And so it's still in a more condensed area. It's not in the traditional range that goes all the way into Canada. But it's improved, or it's grown and to a point where they need to kind of cull the herd a little bit. Has this hunt been going on for a while, the winter one?
It varies year to year, really, because last year they had the winter hunt. The year before they didn't. And the year before that they did. Mm-hmm. So it's all dependent on what the surveyors see around for population.
And part of the reason why they're doing that is if you have a massive amount of animals in a small area, there's going to be, it's not healthy.
They'll eat themselves out of house and home. Yeah. There can't be enough nutrient dense food to grow up within a short season.
Mm-hmm. So what does it look like during the summer? Because you live here, you've been up there before, you've seen that. Like, have you noticed a difference as the herd moves through? Does it look like just? But it is tundra. Like it's not like grass that's been grazed by cows. You can kind of see that there's nothing left, or it's all mowed down. So what does it look like during the summer here?
You mean in the terms of like what the vegetation looks like?
Yeah, and does it look like there's not a whole lot there? And as the herd moves through, does it look like it's just been decimated and overgrazed, or what does it look like?
Well, since they eat lichen, there's always lichen around, but I think that I'm not a biologist by any means or anything, so but they probably have specific lichens that they like to eat more than the others. So if like lichen A is better than lichen B, and they see no lichen A but lichen B, maybe they'll just keep moving.
Yeah.
But in general, it just seems like that this herd, I think, didn't they say that it was like up to over 100,000 or something that
really?
they saw?
Wow.
But from what I had heard is that there is, so there's the Macomb herd, which is down by Delta, and in between Delta and Tok, which is like to the real southern boundary of this herd, the 40-mile herd's range. And then there's also the Nelchina herd, which they kind of, where they winter and spring migrate, that they all kind of overlap sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so I had heard that a couple years ago that there was a large chunk of either the Nelchina herd that is around the Denali Highway or the 40-mile herd that like a large group had broken off from one or the other and joined the other one. Mm. And so whenever they went to go set a quota for the 40-mile herd or whatever herd, that either the tags were available or they weren't.
Interesting. Yeah, the two things that like iconic images in my head. One is the Plains buffalo, and just seeing. There's that scene in like Dances with Wolves when the buffalo have moved through and they've just taken this massive swath of land and just trampled it down, so you can see where the buffalo have gone. And then caribou on the tundra were just that same sort of massive amount of animals. Still haven't seen the massive amount of animals, but just one of those things, just like in the brain, something to see and get in that extreme terrain and see that. So what is it like when you're looking at just all those animals? Like, what do you...
It's cool, just especially when you have like a tag in your pocket. Like whenever I see that, I just like to sit there and just look at them. You know, they're just doing their thing, being dumb little caribou. Trying to find food to eat and survive the winter, trying not to get eaten by wolves or whatever. And so it's just cool to see them in their natural habitat, all bunched up, and it's a wonder of nature. It's
got to be tough to like pick one though. Like, how would you explain, like, if you're looking at a whole bunch and you're hunting one and, like, I'm going to go after that guy, like, how would you explain to your buddy, like, which one to shoot?
Well, I haven't yet been trophy caribou hunting, so honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. Mm-hmm. But in my experience, especially with the 40-mile hunt, is you're there for meat. Mm-hmm. If there's a bunch of caribou that are close by and hey, the one right next to it has a bigger set of antlers or whatever, it's like, then that's a pretty easy thing to figure out. You're like, mm-hmm. Oh, okay, well, there are like 5 here. I'm going to shoot the biggest one. Mm-hmm. Then that's pretty easy. But if you're looking at a pack of like 500 or 600, good luck. It's that kind of thing, I would imagine.
Yeah. So one of the many things that you can do here is hunt caribou, but it is March and it's still really stinking cold. And we talked about this today, too, when we were driving around a little bit. It's cold. It's March. It's still winter, whereas in other areas, like you're breaking free of that. Ketchikan did get like 18 inches of snow today or yesterday. But like, is the experiences you can have outside like worth the pain and trouble? We wouldn't buy it again to pick up water, and your the hose that you needed to fill up your water tank was broken. Like, just a lot of that extra hassle stuff, and the cold, and it's still icy on the roads. Like, what keeps you here?
Doing what you did yesterday. Being able to drive a couple hours in one direction and experience something that not a lot of people are ever going to do in their life, or go a couple of hours in the other direction and do something else. And, just Fairbanks is a cool area where it's centrally located in Alaska, and almost everywhere is road accessible. Not almost everywhere, but a lot of really good hunting and recreating activities are available from the road system from Fairbanks.
I do want to go back and clarify the water comment a little bit. So how do you get your water? Just explain how you get your water, how much it costs, and why the system is set up like that.
Well, I don't have a well here at my house. I'm not on city water, so I have to haul my own water. I have a 1,500-gallon holding tank in the ground, and I have a 175-gallon holding tank in the back of my truck that I go to a place in town that is... It's called College Utilities, and they run the water for the town. And so they just have these pumping stations where you go and you have like a little key fob that's preloaded with money, and then you just enter in how much you want, and then you just fill up your tank, take it home, and then I have like just a gravity feed system. So some people use like mechanical pumps they hook up to their battery to pump it out.
And how often do you have to go get water?
A couple times a week. But I work at the university, so it's from the university to my house it's not even out of the way. Mm. If I had to drive like an extra 10 miles, then it may be a bigger pain in the butt.
How much does it cost?
To fill up my little tank, it's like $3.70.
All right. That's, what do you say, 150 gallons?
175, yeah.
175, okay.
It's like 2.022 cents a gallon.
Nice. What other things around here just might be a little bit different? A lot of times, like, people don't really know what to ask, and then also just part of your daily routine that is normal for you, but for other people, it's like, huh?
Plugging your car in, that's one. Having the heater pads on your oil pan, transmission, battery, trickle charger, all set up for your car, so it's not frozen and dead in the morning. I haul my own heating oil just because it's a lot more economical than having it delivered. Mm-hmm. So a few times a year I have like 5 or 6 55-gallon drums that I fill up, and I have a little pump that I set up and hook up to my truck battery, and it's easy. Mm-hmm. So it is an extra thing, especially when it's cold out, and like on this year it's like, oh, Merry Christmas, oh, here's my kids and everything, there's presents. Well, the house is kind of cold. Well, what happened? Oh, well, out of fucking fuel. So, okay, now God bless you, Christmas morning, gotta load up everything in the truck, drive to my dad's house to grab the stuff, then find a place that will accept a credit card that's not open because it's Christmas, and
yeah,
so it's an adventure.
Yeah, it's worth it though, right?
For now.
You and I have talked about that before, that Southeast Alaska, it's dark, cold, wet, damp. You can't see the blue sky. So even though it's been stinking cold, just seeing the blue and seeing the sun is pretty refreshing. It's pretty nice.
I don't know if I could do rain a lot. I can do cold for a long time, but I don't know if I could do rain for a long time.
You can put on more clothing and stay warm, but yeah, that wet, once it gets in there, it's pretty...
It's hard to drive out.
Yeah, it's ruined. Like, it's just a matter of time. The clock starts once you're wet. Once you get past the rain gear and it's wet, the clock's on. But, so. Any closing thoughts, man?
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, dude. Thanks, man, for having me up here. It's been awesome. A lot of fun.
We still got more adventures to do before you leave.
Still got more adventures. I got a couple more days here, so be great. Thanks again. Appreciate it. And thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.